Hello and welcome. I am Shannon Eastman. I have a couple of updates for you before we jump into this podcast. The first one is the podcast itself has evolved from Work That Matters to Inside Growth. It is a name change that has probably been 3 or 4 months in the making. It's April 2021. And I think I'm at the end of a 3 or 4 month transformation process of my own. I have decided that I would align more, I guess that's it, I would align more with the subject matter that is of most interest to me, and that really is growth, business and professional. So Inside Growth is the name of the podcast. You'll see that going forward. Work That Matters has simply been replaced. So I'm not getting rid of that podcast. I'm just simply changing the name, rebranding it, if you will. And Inside Growth for me is the experience of being inside the process of change, which inherently suggests that it's uncomfortable, but also unavoidable. So I am seeking experts and people with a unique, meaningful perspective on various subject matter that sits inside this theme of being in the process of growth, to wade in and explore and share their experiences, some of the lessons that they've learned, and maybe point to some of their methodologies that, when embraced, make it a bit easier for the rest of us. So that's the update with Inside Growth. This is the first podcast under that new name, and that's not a coincidence. Loretta Ferrucci is a healer. She's an author. She has, I think it's a PhD in homeopathy, Chinese medicine. She's practiced in the Human Pin Code, the DiMartini method, and she works with individuals on transcending or transforming the challenges that they're experiencing in life by going through their body, embodied versus thinking, which is a theme in my life right now as well. So I've invited Loretta onto the show to talk about some basic questions, which is, how do we make parts of us wrong? Our heart gives us feedback and we're like, nope, don't want to tap into that, thanks. I'm just going to stay with my logical thinking self and figure it out from that point. So Loretta takes us on a journey and an exploration. You're going to hear her passion and her wisdom and her mastery in this area as we look at the body and its role and its opportunity that it presents us. I am holding an intention that this podcast for you shifts your perspective on maybe how you interact or communicate with your body. I know it's a practice I've taken on recently and maybe the last year or so, and listening to my body and its feedback and its message and its communication has been one, extraordinary, because I've never done that before, but also incredibly different to how I experience life. There is a flow that has emerged. There is a bucket of synchronicities that I get to access now that I didn't otherwise, and maybe a respect for how important the body is in providing me with feedback that I had totally ignored and didn't even know was there up until maybe 5 years ago, to one that allows me to interact and maybe co-create is a better word, co-create with it and through it. So the head and the heart connection is what we're looking at here. So without further ado, I am going to let you in to this conversation with Loretta Ferrucci. I am so happy to have you here. Welcome, Loretta.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be here. Thank you so much for letting me have this platform and this opportunity.
It's been a long time coming. It's been a good few months. I don't even want to go into maybe it being a year, but it's been an odd 12 months for the world. So I'm glad to see you here. I think the timing is perfect. And when I saw your note on the theme that you wanted to cover, which is the body and how we use the body inside transformation, I thought, what perfect time than now when so many of us are contracting and wondering how we're going to shift the fear and the anxiety that comes with being in a global pandemic. It is the 1st of March, 2021. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I have questions for you, but before we jump in, did you want to set this up or add anything before I just get started?
No, I think let's go. Let's just roll and see what happens.
Why is the body such an integral and critical component of transformation is my first question. And the second one is, why are so few of us copped onto it? But let's start with the first one.
Okay, well, the body is the only part of your entire being that is always in the present. It's never in the past. It's never in the future. It's only in the right now. So 6 months ago, I may have weighed 20 pounds less. It doesn't matter. Right now, I weigh what I weigh. What I weighed 6 months ago or 6 years ago, or what I'm going to weigh next year, doesn't really make any difference. And so we're so, what's the word? I want to say almost obsessed. We're so obsessed with controlling our minds and managing our emotions and increasing our resilience that we tend to leave out the very foundation. So your body's like the foundation of the building. It's the vehicle that houses your being. So if you've got a headache, you don't operate well. If you're hungover, you don't operate as well as what you did when you're not. If you've had good night's sleep, you feel differently than what you do if you haven't. So it affects every single part of our lives because it literally is the foundation of our being. And if the foundation is not great, it doesn't matter how beautiful you make the outside. It doesn't matter how much plaster you slap on. It doesn't matter how much glass there is. Fact of the matter is, it's a shaky structure. So that's why the body, to me, and I think the body cops a bad deal, quite frankly, in the personal development space, particularly. I mean, I've been in this game for a long time, and I've spent a lot of time trying to get past the body, quite frankly. And I keep on thinking, I've been a homeopath in private practice. My practice is closed now, but when I was with patients, it was always like, if I could just find that thing that could help them get them to control their bodies, because obviously they can't do that. So, it's not, I don't know, somehow it's just not sexy. It's much sexier being able to be mindful or to be able to sit in meditation for an hour than it is to, I don't know, be able to feed yourself 9 portions of vegetables a day. And I think this pandemic, one of the blessings, certainly in my game of this pandemic, is that it suddenly made being healthy, physically healthy.
Yep.
It suddenly highlighted that physical health leads to physical resilience, which literally saves your life. So for the first time in a long time, health is becoming sexy. Physical health is becoming sexy.
There was a disconnect in my experience and my travels. There's a significant disconnect between, what is the neck up version of us and versus the neck down. And I'm not sure, I'm going to speak for myself because I don't want to make sweeping generalizations, but I think I never copped on to the neck down part of me until I was forced to. And that was in January 2014 when I got very, very sick. And that's how I met Dr. Kim Jobst. I was referred to him through a functional health practitioner who said, you're a lot sicker than we expected, and I need to send you to someone. So I remember the first words Dr. Kim said to me was, if you don't do everything I tell you, you'll be on chemotherapy in 9 months. And I can't even describe it's like the world stopped and shattered simultaneously. And then I went on to learn that everything that I was experiencing in my body, and they were talking about Addison's syndrome or Addison's disease, which is to do with your adrenals. And it was all stress induced. And I remember spending the next year really struggling with, I had a positive mindset, fall down 7 times, get up 8. I just never recognized or had the wherewithal that I should get up the 8th time when my body was good and ready. But it was always mind over matter. literally mind over body. And I think entrepreneurs and small businesses, you know, we rely so much on our mindset to get us through. I remember examining my whole life going, how have I reached this age and had no idea what stress did to my body? I was so angry, you know, and 4 years later in recovery, learning how to use my body, it was the biggest piss off, one of my biggest piss offs. I just couldn't believe that I'd gone my whole life and not ever known it. So there's
Right. Well, you know, if it makes you feel any better, Shannon, I've also mostly lived from the neck up for a lot of my life, and I'm in the health business. So, you know, I mean, I know this is not a competition as to which one of us goes off, but quite frankly, you know, I only discovered probably about 5 years ago that the reason why, when I think about the drivers of why I actually did the job that I did, was because when I was really small, I had weird seizures. And nobody knew what was wrong. And so I went to all the conventional doctors and had all the tests. And my parents were super, super anxious. And eventually my mother took me to a homeopath. And I can't remember what was wrong. But anyway, it sorted it out. But I do remember how stressed my parents were. And I remember feeling like it was my fault. Yeah. And so, you know, that void that was created by my lack of health essentially drove my desire, to always be healthy. But it was always like something I needed to control. You know, this body was this thing that either didn't look the way I wanted to, or it was too fat, or it was too creaky, or it wasn't flexible enough, or it didn't work well enough, or whatever. It was always something that I had to conquer rather than something that I could just actually sink into and use as my GPS to actually open up every other avenue in my life.
So okay, I want to explore that because we talk, there's a narrative or a story that we can go to in this space. In this space is the personal growth space that talks about, you know, going inward, sinking in, using the body. And I'm going back to my January 2014 experience. If somebody had said that to me at January 2014, when I just got my news, I would have wanted to punch you in the face because that meant nothing. I would literally be going, I'm already in here. Telling me to go in doesn't help. So let's extrapolate that because I think this is really timely and important information. So what is it for you to go inward and use the body as its GPS?
Well, I think the first thing to do is to just actually take stock of where you are and ask yourself, okay, what have I got? Right? So whether you've got chronic fatigue or you've got migraine headaches, whatever, what do I have? And what is this that I have? What is it forcing me to do or not do? So maybe my migraines are forcing me not to work, or I don't know, my fatigue.
Let's go with migraines.
Okay, so my migraines are forcing me to take 2 days of time out, to take heavy medication, sleep, and not do my life. Okay, so the question is, right? So it's doing that. How is that serving you? That's the first thing, because the part of your nervous system that runs your entire physiology is your autonomic nervous system. And it consists of two parts: your sympathetic, which we know is your fight, flight, or freeze, and your parasympathetic, which is your rest, digest, and restore. But your sympathetic doesn't only work with fight, flight, or freeze. It's our sympathetic nervous systems that are allowing us to talk and for you to operate the technology. It makes us alert, it's more active in the day, and all those things. So what ends up happening is that when you have a sign and symptom and all you're trying to do is fight it, you are activating fight, flight, or freeze, which is not immune function, which is not neurotransmitter function, which is not digestion, which is not detoxification.
If I have a migraine, depending on what side of the water we're in, my go-to is I need to take a pill or some sort of prescription to stem the flow of pain that's causing me to lose days to bed.
Right.
What do I do instead?
Okay, so if you can see what is it forcing you to do? It's forcing you to lose days. So first of all, what's that really mean? Well, it's forcing you to rest. So because lose days is a story. What's it literally forcing you to do? It forces me to go to bed for 2 days. Okay, no story. Not are you losing days? Are you losing money? What do you do? 2 days, go to bed. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, it's rest. No responsibility for everyone else. just me, painkillers, quiet sleep. Okay, so my question would be, right, so what can I do in my life? How can I use that? I need to rest more, for example, which is a very simple, it's an oversimplification, but I need to rest more. How can I use that? How can I build into my life a mechanism that means I can get the rest without having to have the migraine? Now, you may say, I am the CEO of I don't have to, I can't just take a Friday off, Loretta, all the self-care bullshit. I can't do that. Okay, well, are you forced to do it when you get a migraine? Yeah. So how about you took 2 days off in the month somewhere without having the pain? Then you can do whatever you want, really. So it's about choices, right?
Yeah.
And if you're unable to do that, then I would say, okay, well, the GPS is telling you that clearly you have some sort of, I almost want to say, addiction to productivity or tough or seeing it through or putting on your big girl pants or whatever, however you want to put that, right? And so let's look at that. What do you think that's all about? Okay, so maybe it's because underlying you have a limiting belief that says that you're not good enough, and if you're not achieving, you're not viable. Okay, so what does that limiting belief force you to do? Well, it forces me to keep on going. Okay, well, if you can recognize the behavior, could you make, a healthier choice? Well, yeah, I could. Okay, so what is it that you want to achieve? So let's just say that you want to achieve maximal growth in your business, which is why you think you've got to be there every day. Now the question is, if you took 4 afternoons a month, the equivalent of those 2 days that you would be man down with the migraine anyway, if you took 4 afternoons a month off, how would that improve your productivity? Because the minute you can see that, now you get to take the time off. You get to recognize there's a limiting belief. You don't have to change it. You don't have to fix it. You just have to know it's there and that's the sabotager, and choose something different. Now, that sounds very simple in theory. It's a little bit more difficult in practice because you may have been doing it one way for 50 years and you've got to go and unlearn it. But it's not undoable. And it's choices, because if you don't, it's like Dr. Kim said to you, if you don't do everything I say, you're going to be on chemo in 9 months. You had a choice, Shannon. You could have said, screw you, I'm not taking that kind of attitude. No one's telling me what to do. Okay?
I reflect, I feel so much empathy for business owners caught up in this. 2 things I want to share. One is I had a fantastic conversation with the CEO of a tech firm out in London, Softwire. And she came on to talk about lack dressed up as ambition. This idea of drive and productivity and the 24/7 hustle. She's calling bullshit on it. And she was talking about the underlying reasons why we find ourselves in the Dr. Kim office saying, if you don't do everything I say, you'll be on chemo in 9 months. And I remember saying to Dr. Kim at the time, give me a prescription. I've got staff, I've got clients. I had an agency in London, and it was inconceivable of me to do anything to interrupt the workflow. And I remember Dr. Kim said to me, go find another doctor because I'm not giving you a prescription. And I remember at some point asking to see his medical license. I'd never met him before in my life. And I was like, how do you use the word chemo and no prescription in the same conversation? Like, who are you? And it was, I would say in practice or in theory, just coming from the play, I hit a brick wall at 100 miles an hour and I was still standing going, no, I can keep going. And it wasn't until I realized the significance of the body and the value of resting. Oh my God. I will throw it there now. I work 15 to 20 hours a week and I am more productive and I am more effective and I have better case studies and better results than I did when I did 100 hours, which, as I say it out loud, sounds kind of obvious. Of course you would.
Yeah, but it's not obvious to most people because most people are still striving for the 60 to 80 hours or the 100 hours a week.
Oh yeah. I remember there's another expression in the small biz world that says entrepreneurs work 100 hours a week so that we never have to work a 40-hour work week. Because it's given, we work so much and so hard to create whatever we're creating. But it was Of course, years of unlearning and relearning for me. Oh, I was so pissed off. I was so mad that I had.
And that's the problem. That's why really serious disease is a great stopper in your tracks.
Ugh.
Because it actually, at some point you just actually cannot carry on. What I'm saying, and there's no judgment or criticism on this whatsoever, is like, you know what, I don't want to have to wait until I get the diagnosis of the tumor before I evaluate my life and have to try, not fix it, because I don't believe it needs fixing, but have to try and do that unlearning. So I would rather do slow and steady wins the race and actually live a joyful and inspired life.
I do now, but I remember the mindset that I had back then was, of course, underlying limiting beliefs everywhere that were running the story that I didn't even know I had. I was oblivious to them. But as I show up here in this conversation with you, my body is the number one GPS point in my life. And not because I'm fearful of getting sick again. I'm definitely not. And Dr. Kim's treatment, natural treatment, I'm great. I'm back. I'm recovered. But it's about understanding that my 5 senses will take in information, whether I'm conscious of it or not, and it will be received by my central nervous system that will direct the activity of 50 trillion cells in my body to act accordingly. Yep. So if I were to observe something that causes me stress, my central nervous system is saying, hey kids, freak the fuck out. And they're Absolutely. Like, okay.
Yeah, no problem.
But the opposite is true. Actually, the opposite is so much better. In my experience, I use the 5 senses now default 24/7. So I have a theta meditation that I use at night that plays on repeat, and I upgrade it or tweak it every 30 days. So I'm listening to about 15 times a night on repeat throughout my sleep. During my day, I have essential oils burning. I have Emiliano Toso, which is music used to heal cellular activity, played in hospitals and medical facilities all over the world. Candles. There's a waterfall behind me that you can see, but our listeners can't. These are the things that I now continuously feed deliberately my central nervous system, so that my central nervous system tells my body we're Zen, like we're totally yoga, kids. And what happens is the fight, flight, freeze, it's just not in me anymore. And so I can use breath work and my 5 sensory materials to go into a place where I need to solve a problem for my client, or I need to create a conference or event, and I can create from an enormously intuitive, creative, and open space, and do it in a fraction of the time. 4 years ago, 2014, I don't know how long ago that was. 7 years ago.
7 years ago.
I would be on takeaways at 10 o'clock at night in the office, brainstorming at 11 p.m. And I was so proud of it. I was like,
absolutely.
Being in the trenches. Yeah. But now the body is a GPS. I love that term. I hadn't heard it before. You said it. The body is your GPS system. Directing.
I just want to make one sort of addition to that, is that your emotions are physical. So, we tend to think of the body as the physical, and then the emotions are the emotional, and then the thinking is the thinking. But actually, whenever something comes in through your senses, you generate a thought. And that thought, if that's a good thing, then you're going to have a positive emotion. And if that is a bad thing for you, you're going to generate a negative emotion. And in that generation, you release a chemical cascade that goes to all 50 trillion cells and tells them we are now pissed off or angry or anxious or fearful or whatever, okay? And so we think of our emotions as being separate to the body, but they're actually in the body. So, because this is where they're housed.
Can you say it again? Sorry? I want you to say it again, starting with the thought. So,
the perception. So first of all, something happens and you take it into your senses. So you perceive it.
Yeah.
Something happens. You get a phone call and you hear the person screaming at you on the other side of the phone.
Yes.
It comes in through your senses, and your mind goes, the person on the phone's a dick. Negative, all right? And you get angry. So you generate a thought, and then you generate an emotion, and the emotion generates a chemical cascade, which gets released into your bloodstream and goes to all your cells. Now, if you allow yourself to feel the emotion, because emotions are like waves of energy, they roll in from the horizon, they peak, they break, they roll to the shore, and they recede, provided you allow them to do that. Most of us don't. So you may think that when you scream at the person on the phone who's a dick, you're feeling your anger. No, you're expressing as an attempt not to feel the anger. You're actually venting so that you can feel better, not so that you can feel the anger. So what ends up happening is, instead of allowing that wave of energy to move, when I hear myself talking like this, I'm like, oh my God, 10 years ago me is like, dear God, Loretta, what shit are you sprouting now? But I'm telling you, this stuff is the bomb. So when you don't allow yourself to feel the feeling fully, whether you do it in the moment or whether you do it later, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's like you're building a dike. So, you become like the Netherlands. No offense to the Netherlands, it's a lovely country, but basically they've got to maintain those dikes 24/7. It takes a lot of resource to make sure that the water doesn't come in. Yeah. And that's resource that we scatter away from ourselves. So that's less creativity, less clarity of thinking, not poorer sleep, not good emotion, and not good relationships because you're irritated or whatever the case may be. And so when you can connect to where the feeling is in your body, what it is, and just allow it to be there. So I have this, this is not my process. I nicked it out of a Buddhist book, all right? And I wish I could remember exactly where. It was a really good one. And basically, it literally is, choose an emotion, find where you can feel it in your body, and then describe it as if you're talking to someone who has no idea what it is, So what is its color? What is its shape? Does it look like anything? And as your mind wanders, just keep on going back, because it's like a child of yours trying to get your attention. So your emotions are of you. They're not you, right? They're of you. Just as your children are of you, but they are not you. So when a child is trying to get your attention, when kids are like really trying to get your attention and you ignore them for long enough and then it gets really quiet, shit's going down somewhere, right? Okay, well, it's exactly the same with your emotions. Because what ends up happening is they go quiet and then it comes out in sabotaging behavior. So you drink more, you work harder, you exercise too much, whatever it is that you need to do. And again, no criticism on any of those things. We've all got our coping mechanisms, but your emotions are of the body. So it doesn't have to take 10 years. And it also doesn't have to take, doesn't have to take it 10 hours a day. You don't have to change your spiritual orientation. You literally have to learn to just sit for 10 minutes and just feel the feeling. Because once you become adept at it, you will be doing it more naturally. You'll keep less of it in your physiology because it literally will do that wave breaking and receding, and you will free up your energy. So the reason why we have to have 100-hour work weeks is because we're so unproductive because we don't have enough energy.
Wow.
And I'm not just talking about like energy to keep us going, because a lot of us have a lot of that. It's that we scatter our energy. It's, the energy is all over the place. It's not integrated. So your sensory sort of bubble that you've built, which is amazing, that allows you to keep your energy together to a certain extent. More so than if you had an environment that was really challenging, for example.
Yes.
But so your emotions and your behavior, see, most of us are so from the head up. We don't know the feeling. We don't notice the feeling. We don't even notice the perception.
We don't want to. It gets in our way, so to speak.
Exactly. And it's something that we just need to push down. Someone commented on a post about it on Facebook today that since lockdown, she's been struggling to annihilate her emotions because she just doesn't want to feel them. Okay, well, they can't be annihilated. They're part of you. So that trying to punish yourself to not feel is also somewhat counterproductive. But your emotions are also part of your GPS. So, if you're consistently feeling angry, you want to ask yourself, okay, so, you could have something happening in your liver and your gallbladder, because when you're not detoxifying well, you very often get very angry and very frustrated. So there's connections between these emotions and the physical organs in energy medicine. There are so many worlds within worlds, which is why, I'm talking about the body, but the body itself, your physical organs, they affect your emotions. There's a relationship between them that then takes you back to your thoughts and your perceptions and ultimately leads you back to your limiting beliefs. So you can do an entire, I would say, psychotherapy cycle for 10 years of your life using only your body. And by that, I mean your emotions and your physical signs and symptoms as feedback to help to show you where you are unaligned with who you really are.
That's incredible. I love the distinctions that you made. Just wrapping up this conversation, I love the idea about the thought creates an emotion, releases a cascade of chemicals throughout your body that tells you what's what. I love the idea of practicing feeling the emotion as the waves coming in and then dissipating. And this idea of using what's going on in your body as feedback so that you can become more optimal version of you.
Absolutely.
It's,
Can I just say one more thing? Can I just say one last?
Of course.
So when you're driving in your car and you take a wrong turn, right? And the GPS tells you that you need to reroute. You don't smash the whole car. You don't go, oh my God, this car's a piece of shit. You just go, oh, took a wrong turn. And you go, so it's the same in your physical body. We get so angry with ourselves when we're sick or we burnt out. It's as if your body's just like let you down, as if you are just driving a bad car. Well, you're not. It's just telling you that you're not on the right road to where you want to go.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And any last thoughts before we wrap up today, Loretta? Loretta Ferrucci.
You got to say it. You finally got to say it. If I had to say, take out 3 top tips for like what to do. So really, you can't learn, practice just feeling your emotion in your body and describing it. Don't even think about it. No story. Just describe
color, shape,
color, shape, smell, texture.
Yep.
Does it look like, some people are very visual, so it looks like a growling Rottweiler, whatever. Doesn't matter, okay? And just keep on describing it, because the more you do that, the more you pay attention, the less it's going to railroad you, and the more it's going to free up your energy.
Beautiful. Beautiful. This was wonderful. Thank you so much for coming out today.
You're very welcome.
You have an article that we are including in the link to this podcast here. Your website is below as well. So if you want to get in touch with Loretta Ferrucci, all of our social media links are below. Read that article. It's a follow-up to this conversation that I thought was important to include. And thank you again.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Take care. God bless. Thank you for listening. That is the end of our show. For more information and access to all prior episodes, visit shannoneastman.com/podcast. To be a guest on the show, go to the same page and click on the Be My Guest link. If you're an expert or if you have an area of mastery in the area of growth, personal growth, business growth, and the overlap thereof, then I'd love to hear from you.